Are you an esports junkie? Do you like to shoot up rank points and waste your life flaming griefers and Brazilian bots purposely losing games to D-rank accounts? Well, welcome home, friend. Today, we're gonna talk about the matchmaking systems in League of Legends. And we've got a whole lot to unpack here. Our last video was meant to be more entertaining, while this one is meant to be a lot more informative. And if you didn't catch the last video, don't worry about it, because we'll retouch on everything that matters. But I'll put a link in the description if you'd like to see it anyway. The topics that we're going to cover here are engagement optimized matchmaking, Riot's patent on behavioral-based matchmaking, machine learning and systems that can predict player churn rates, the outcome of how games can easily be skewed, or at least predicted, rubber banding difficulty and how players are expected to perform in easy, even, and hard matches, and how players can be tempted to keep playing or get hooked and addicted by controlling the difficulty of matches, what patterns in matchmaking look like, and how to recognize these systems in action, in-game player modification, which may or may not apply to League, but it is a real thing that has been implemented in other games, and it's way more than interesting. Now, in the last video, I showed a lot of clips of this dev talking about how matchmaking systems are designed, but I forgot to mention that this guy giving that presentation is a Mr. Josh Menk, who not only has quite the work history and is certainly an expert in this field, but also happens to be a designer of the matchmaking system at Riot Games. So keep that in mind when I share clips of what he has to say here. And prior to working at Riot, Mr. Mank also worked at Blizzard and Activision, where he helped to design and patent a lot of engagement optimizing systems, which we'll get into.
This is based on experience I've had working for Blizzard and on some of their games at 343 on Halo, and now working at Activision in general.
Now first, let's talk about what even is engagement optimized matchmaking, and how can we recognize it. So this idea, and its name, comes from a research paper published in 2017 by EA with the help of Northeastern University. The basic premise is that players have a greater chance to quit or keep playing a game based on various states, and that game engine could optimize player retention by manipulating these states. Some examples of this might be a player winning 3 matches in a row and getting bored, to which they quit for a day or for a week, or a player losing 3 matches in a row, causing them to get frustrated and quit. And the most optimal experience for player retention is something like starting with a win and then losing 2 in a row, because then that player might try to keep playing until they win, or even some more after that. That's the basic idea. It was essentially a study on player retention and churn risk. So what they call churn is when a player quits the game, like it's the end of the session. Maybe it's just for the rest of the day, or maybe it's for good. But churn means when a player ends their play session. In this research paper, churn is defined as a player not returning to the game for 7 or more days. So it means they've quit. They're done. And the purpose of this study was to see if game developers could calculate, predict, and maybe even manipulate a player's churn risk to keep them playing for longer. Now, this research is predicated on what they call the peak end rule, which is how a player feels after the final match they play in a session. So like you had a super exciting final match, and that excitement will be what you take away with you at the end of that session, and perhaps also be what you look forward to when you come back. Or if you had a super frustrating and absolutely miserable final match, you'll carry that feeling out with you, and regardless of what the other previous matches were probably like, that peak at the end is what you'll reflect on and remember the most about that play session. In the introduction of this paper, they ask the question, are fairly matched games always beneficial for player experience? This fundamental yet intuitive assumption is worthy of deep investigation. Now, in the game that they used for this research, there is the possibility of a draw, and the churn risk analysis of this is based on a player's last 3 games, and what the risk that they stop playing the game is for an entire week or more based on those last 3 games. So this isn't just quitting for the rest of the day, but probably they're just totally done. Engagement optimized matchmaking claims that with machine learning algorithms, we can easily predict player states and calculate the likelihood of them quitting the game, based on their engagement and recent experience. And by knowing when a player is nearing their limit, we could nudge them back to a less risky state, by giving them an easy, even, or hard match based on what state they're currently in.
So ideal matchmaking. The designer ideal is probably to put players in the games that are fun, and maybe have some kind of planned experience with varying intensity. It's kind of a classic design philosophy that don't just have all super tight matches and all really, or whatever. Have some hard, some easy, and have it go up and down. Then you've got this business ideal, right? The holy grail would, hey, can I put a long-term monetary value on every possible match I'm going to make per player, and then matchmaking the matches that maximize that value over time. Some realistic proxies we use are things like skill gap and churn analysis and stuff like that.
Back in the arcade days, many of those games were rigged to psychologically manipulate you for optimal engagement to get you to drop more credits. All genres of games each had their different tricks to make you feel like you were so close and all you need to do is just try again. But we're going to talk about the rubber band difficulty of fighting games because it's quite similar to the idea of optimized matchmaking. So you put in a credit and start playing Mortal Kombat, let's say. The game is rather easy at first, but as you move up through the levels, the game incrementally gets harder. Of course, right? That's the way we like our video games. But the highest difficulty setting is actually meant to be impossible. At the highest difficulty, the AI computer opponent cheats. It will read and respond to your inputs and perform moves to counter your actions before they even come out. Fighting games always have a rock, paper, scissors sort of thing. Sometimes it's attack, block, and grab, but then there's also high, medium, and low, and sometimes there's more. But at that highest difficulty, the AI is designed to instantly perform the perfect counter to any input before the animation of your move even comes out. And after you put in another credit, the difficulty drops. Every time you lose, the difficulty drops a little. Because in each successive loss, you almost had it. It was just a little bit closer this time, and all you gotta do is just try again. Most of those games had a difficulty setting of 1 to 10, and the owner could choose a starting difficulty. But no matter what difficulty you set the machine to, it always scales up to the highest one by the time you reach the final boss. Which, on top of reading your moves, it would also be some super overloaded character, with really unfair moves that could fully exploit its ability to read your inputs. And that's how they got them back in the arcades. And just like now, back then, people didn't want to hear the game was rigged either. Oh, that's crazy. That's conspiracy, right? And as the player, as the consumer at that time, you didn't know. And you had no way to really prove it either. But we all know now, because that information is declassified. It's publicly available. It's a history lesson now, and we can all have a laugh about it. And it is funny, right? Or at least it is if you're the publisher. If you're the developer. Man, we really got 'em with that one, huh? How much money did we make on that trick? That's crazy. This is such a great metaphor for the way that online games are manipulating people now. The rubber banding difficulty could be implemented in League, and it could be implemented in any online game. It is highly effective, but it's also extremely primitive by today's standards. Now, how could the outcome of matches even be manipulated? Well, it's quite easy actually. Our guy even clearly tells us that adjacent ranks separate players in ability with 3-to-1 odds if they play against each other. For example, a gold player will beat a silver player 75% of the time.
I like games that have broad, meaningful ranks for relatability. Things like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, things like that. And I like that because players can remember them better, and also because, I'll show you in a second what the skill spread usually looks like. It lets me spread out the skill of the players such that the difference in skill between one chunk and another chunk is basically a 3-to-1 odds if those guys play against each other. So a silver player will beat a bronze player 3 out of 4 times. A silver player knows what it's like to play a bronze player, and he knows how hard it is to play a gold player because you've designed the system with that in mind. Because again, going back to my skill slides, you know how to predict the outcome of these matches based on your skill system. This is kind of how I design these skill distributions to look. You can usually tune your system such that one standard deviation gives you that 3-to-1 odds that you want. This is something you'll commonly see in games that I've worked on. And it, again, gives you those broad, chunky ranks that players relate to, and they know what they mean when they play against other players.
Now, if those odds are even approximately close, then that's crazy, because we see lobbies in League that have mixed ranks all the time. We've all seen them. A lot, actually. It's like just about every game. And sure, maybe it's just that these players with different visible ranks actually have a more similar hidden matchmaking rating, which is supposedly what League's entire matchmaking system is based on. So let's talk about MMR for a minute. Originally, League's entire ranked system was predicated on an ELO system. We didn't have these color ranks like bronze, silver, and gold, but instead we just had a number. Every new account starts at the same number. I believe it was 1200, and then you gain or lose a varying amount of points at the end of each match based on how much higher or lower your opponent's rank score is to yours. This system is generally called the ELO ranking system, because of this guy known as Professor ELO, who it's attributed to for its creation for competitive games like chess. In League of Legends, this ranked score, which is just simply a number, is referred to as your ELO, or your MMR, which stands for Matchmaking Rating. And these two terms are sort of used interchangeably. In Season 3 of League of Legends, they added in the color ranks like bronze, silver, and gold, but still kept the ELO system going on in the background. Supposedly. We don't have any way to truly absolutely know how MMR and visibly rank actually work in tandem, because the matchmaking formula or code isn't publicly available. So there's this huge air of mystery about it. But if it works in the way that it's supposed, then it would be something like this. You have an ELO type score called your matchmaking rating, which is stored as a value hidden to the player. And each visible rank, like bronze, silver, and gold, have general thresholds or markers within the ELO system. So let's say silver 4 might be 1200, and gold 4 might be 1400. And as you already know, League has what they call LP, or League points, that you win or lose after each match. And each division within a rank is worth a total of 100 League points. You get to 100 LP, you go to the next division. And you may have also noticed how the amount you gain or lose is different in each game. And this is supposedly based on how close your visible rank is to your MMR. So if your MMR gets way ahead of your visible rank, then you'll be gaining a lot more LP when you win, like maybe 30 or more LP, while losing less LP when you lose, like maybe 15 or so. And conversely, if your MMR is a lot lower than your visible rank, then you'll gain less for winning, and lose more for losing. But there probably is a chess-similar ELO-based matchmaking rating system in the background running tandem to your visible rank. But the fact that your MMR is completely hidden is sort of the first layer of this onion, as to why so many people don't trust the matchmaking in this game. It begs the question, why do we have LP, and all these ranks and divisions within those ranks, if your actual rank is just a simple number? And if there were other systems in place to manipulate players into playing more, having your true matchmaking rating hidden would make it very easy to obfuscate and unbalance matches. So like we go into a Gold 2 lobby, and we've randomly got 2 Silver players in there. But we can say, well, maybe they actually have a higher MMR, and this game is still balanced. But if we could just see each other's numbers, and these players were obviously 200 points lower in ELO than the rest of everyone, well, that would be alarming, wouldn't it? But maybe in this case, these Silver players actually have a higher MMR than their visible rank, and this game could still be balanced. But some of these solo queue ranked lobbies are just absolutely egregious. Sometimes you'll see Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum all in the same match. What in the world is going on here? The skill gaps in these matches are just so often all over the place, and we experience lots and lots and lots of one-sided games. We could cherry pick examples all day, but it really is just about every match, isn't it? Just in your own experience, I want you to think about and comment, if you would, how often do you experience an even match in League of Legends ranked solo queue? Because for me, even matches are sort of an oddity. They're quite rare for me. If I had to put a number on it, maybe 20% of my matches feel like fair or even games. Just about every game is an absolute stomp one way or the other. And it just feels as if so few of these games are actually fair. So like in this game, I'm the only gold ranked player in an otherwise silver lobby. But let's be considerate that maybe gold 4 and silver 1 or 2 could be fairly matched with each other. Also with consideration for that your MMR could be a little ahead or behind your visible rank. So maybe all the players in this lobby are actually close in MMR. But what about this lobby? We have Plat 4 and Gold 4 on opposite teams. Now that's an entire rank's worth of divisions in difference. And if what old boy said is true about predicting the outcomes of matches between players of different ranks, then this match would obviously be skewed or favorable to the team with a platinum player on it. Also, I want to note that Riot in its own description of how LP gains are calculated states that unexpected wins are worth more. Why would the system expect a particular team to win? Shouldn't every game be matched evenly in skill? Or at least from the system's perspective. So that's interesting, isn't it? In this lobby, we got Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum players in it. And the skill gaps in this match are just incredible. But notice how the 2 Silver players and the Bronze player are all on the same team together. It's almost like this match just isn't fair at all. Do you think this is a fair match? I mean, Silver 4 to Plat 4 is 2 whole entire full ranks worth of divisions. But I also think it's just funny to have a Bronze 1 player in here as well for a little cherry on top. Here's another lobby that's got Bronze, Silver, and Gold all in the same match together. From Silver 1 to Bronze 1 is already an entire rank of difference. And it's just like the more you look at these lobbies, the more obviously unfair that most of these matches are. With just about every single match, having players an entire rank of 4 divisions gap between players, who are often directly laning against each other. And this is in 2026, after implementing what they call role fairness. You think this is fair? Tell me how it's fair that I'm a Gold 3 in this match, and I'm going to just crush my Silver 3 opponent. How is that fair in any way? These huge discrepancies in player ability make these games so lopsided. And whether this is a result of luck, or if it's by design, these matches are most certainly not fair. Here's what results in these matches look like. So in this match, we have a Silver Scion versus a Gold Mordekaiser. And they're not even close in rank. It's not like Silver 1 versus Gold 4. It's like an entire 4 divisions gap. How do you think this game went? That's right. It wasn't even close. That Mordekaiser essentially had a free ride, got super fed, and ran away with the game. He even just about doubled the Silver Scion CS too. This match was just an absolute wash. And it's just about every game looks like this. The gaps in skill and what are supposed to be honest and fair competitive ranked matches are just inundated with these totally washed 0-9, 1-11, 2-11, 0-5 feed and give up steamrolls. None of these matches are fair, and we could cherry pick examples all day, but if you go yourself and queue 3 matches right now, I bet all 3 of those are probably these sort of games. And it's probably because of the obvious skill gaps between opponents in the same game. And it begs the question, why can't we just find a lobby with 10 players of the exact same rank? Like if you're Gold 2 and you queue up for a match, why can't you find a match with 10 Gold 2 players? Or all Silver 3 players? Why does it always have to be so mixed up like this? There are millions of active users playing this game on a daily basis. And of course not everybody is online at the same time, and also even playing the same mode, and then also take into account preferred roles and give some leniency for autofill. But whatever rank you are, except maybe Master and above, you think right now there aren't 10 players hitting find match the exact same time who are exactly the same rank. It's absurd to think that it wouldn't be easy enough to match lobbies with all players of the same rank. All the way down to the same division even. Pretty much all across the board. If there's all these people online, then why are we sometimes waiting several minutes for these matches which aren't even close to balanced? Maybe nobody hardly plays League anymore. Maybe there really aren't that many people queuing up for ranked anymore. I mean, that really could be the reason. But I doubt that. There's all these sites with live player count trackers and all that sort of stuff. And League of Legends got some big numbers for live player counts. Unless you're in some isolated or distant part of the world, that's probably not the reason. It really does just appear at a surface level that these games are not fair. And that they're not balanced evenly. You have to admit that. Most of these matches that we play in solo queue are simply not balanced, like it's not even close. Now, is that by design, or is that a product of an honest skill-based matchmaking system doing its best, with consideration for all of those variables that come into play when queuing up, like the time of day, maybe not so many people are active right now, or maybe the roles that are popular or in demand are throwing it off. Duo queue is another factor. There's a lot of excuses that you can make for it. But it still sucks. And you cannot deny that most matches just aren't fair. And if there were other manipulative or exploitative systems at play in the matchmaking, how would you know? It's not like you even actually know how the matchmaking in this game works anyway. You've got nothing to go off of. It's not like you can even see your MMR and say, oh, I see everyone in this lobby is within 20 elo of each other. You can't see that, and you can't know. Now let's address the different types of players that can all be in a match together, which also contribute to how unbalanced these games are. So first, we have all the players playing averagely to their rank. So we're in a Gold 2 lobby, and 80% of these players are playing at a Gold 2 level. Whatever that means. Now we'll also have some people who are just on the way down, because they got boosted, or carried, or bought an account, or just started too high on the ladder. New accounts can place as high as Emerald even, and I think that is one huge issue that causes a lot of grief. I think new accounts just start way too high. But we also have some players who are on the way up. We've got Smurfs, boosters, and returning players simply playing on decayed or absent accounts. And these players are obviously going to create gaps of skill in those lobbies as well. And if you don't know, a Smurf is a high skill or high ranked player playing on a second or alternate account, usually in a much lower rank to their main account, either for content, like they're streaming, or maybe to practice new champions and strategies, or maybe even just for fun. But it's essentially like punching down, because it's a high-skill player playing in a low-skill lobby. And so you'll have some of each type of player in every match. And what do you do about that? As a game developer, as Riot Games, what do you do about that? That's tough. It really is. Every solution to this problem comes with another grievance. And another issue that's become more prominent as of late are these bot farms and live streams where people are purposely losing games to D-rank accounts, as like a protest or mockery of how bad the solo queue experience actually is. I mean, there's been live streams where one guy might be running several bots all at once in separate ranked games simultaneously. I'll give it to him. That is funny. And then at the same time, we got people buying and selling accounts. And hilariously, those super low-ranked accounts are worth a lot more than the high-ranked ones. That's what League is now. This is what the solo queue experience is in a nutshell. So you'll have like 8 to 7 players who are all sort of about even with each other, and then maybe 1 or 2 high-skill players that are just popping off, and then another 1 or 2 players who are just running it down and hard griefing the game. And this isn't even a problem that's derived from the matchmaking system itself. But solo queue games just have these large skill gaps between players, and that's at every rank. It just about doesn't matter how high you climb, it's always kind of like this. Even in Masters, even in Challenger, there's gonna be people who got boosted or bought accounts. And then at the really high ranks, win trading is also an issue. And just what do you do about this as the developer of the game? So Riot has formally announced and implemented what they call Smurf Queue. This is a real thing. It's not a conspiracy. But later they said that they removed it, so who actually knows? But the idea was that accounts who got high MMR with low visible ranks would all just get matched together. That's the general premise. That's what they told us. But is that fair? Is that fair to an honest, new, or returning player who should just get placed higher? And so maybe that's why it was or wasn't removed. But it's not hard to identify a Smurf in any game, not just in League of Legends. In any online game, it's very easy to identify your high-skill players. And it's also not hard to identify someone who just runs it down every game. You know how when you first log in, you'll get hit with notifications of players who are penalized from your recent games. Why is it pretty much always just AFK? I've only seen sabotaging a match come up one time. Maybe they do get banned eventually, but I've only ever gotten that notification once. And I'll see somebody running it down just about every game, whether it's on my side or the enemy team, but it's very easy to work out what kind of player each account is, and those griefing accounts probably don't get banned, because the system needs them. And maybe they're just that bad. I mean, people are way dumber than you think. The average is actually quite low. So let's talk about what patterns in matchmaking look like. Now, I have played a lot of competitive games, and if you've played at least 3 different online games with any kind of ranked ladder, you've probably got a good idea of what patterns in matchmaking look like. And you can look at a player's match history, and you could quite easily work out what that player's skill is, and if they're on the way up or on the way down, or if they're about at the rank they belong in. Now, simply in terms of wins and losses, what do these patterns look like? So a player who is on the way up might win 3 in a row and then lose 1, or win 2 in a row and then lose 1. And even with luck and all those variables that could come into play, maybe they go even for a little bit, like they win 2, lose 2, and it could be a little bit of a mixed bag. And maybe they're really out of their league, and they're going on a serious climb. Maybe they just win every single game, like 15 or 20 in a row. But the closer that player gets to the rank that they belong, the shorter that those streaks would become. So like let's say you're a diamond level player, and you start in silver. Then maybe you start out winning 10-1. And then around gold, maybe it's like 5-1. And then you get to plat, and it's like 3-1. And then you get to diamond, and it starts to even out. And conversely, a player who is on the way down might lose 3 in a row and then win a game, or lose 2 in a row and win a game. And occasionally, they'll also have a little bit of back and forth. And of course, players that are about in the rank they belong will probably have the best assortment of wins and losses, because they're constantly hovering around their skill level. Sometimes they'll fall a little bit below their player ability, and then they win a few in a row. And then they'll just ever so slightly be outmatched, and then they'll lose it back down. These are the results that we expect to see in games with honest skill-based matchmaking. But what's so interesting about League is that just about every player experiences these long streaks of wins and losses, almost regardless of skill level. So what's going on with that? I mean, this is anomalous, and it just doesn't really make any sense. Mathematically, it doesn't. Unless a player is distinctly on a huge climb or a fall, that should be a really rare occurrence. But it's super common in League. Now the odds on this are not as simple as just flipping a coin heads several times in a row. A lot of people like to use this as an analogy, but there is also that element of skill involved. But it is curious how players of all skill levels commonly experience long win streaks and long loss streaks back to back. And just to put it into perspective, if matches are presumably evenly matched, at least to the best that they can be, then the outcome of most matches should be roughly a coin flip. And the odds of flipping a coin heads 10 times in a row is like 1,000-1. How is it that you can win 10 games in a row because you're currently in a rank that you're much better than, but then turn right back around and can't even hardly get a single win in the exact same elo? Like not even a single easy or even match in the exact same elo that you was just crushing it in. And just how frequently do people go on 10 game winning or losing streaks? Or more? And I'm not talking about when a player is climbing because they're smurfing, or they just deserve a higher rank. But how often do people get those streaks while playing averagely to their respective rank? These sort of examples astronomically defy the odds and what we'd expect to see in any kind of skill-based matchmaking. And everyone has experienced this themselves. It's not like you're the only one. That's really what is so perplexing about the commonality of these streaks, is that everyone has them, when they should really be more of a rare or exceptional occurrence. And of course there is always that chance that it's just luck, because there's so many variables, like who you got on your team, and what champion do they play? Did they get counterpicked? Are they first timing a champion? All that stuff sort of comes into play. And you also have to consider that it's much easier to lose a game of League than it is to win. So I'd even give a concession that loss streaks should be more common than winning ones, because it's much harder to force a win than it is to force a loss. It's real easy to lose a game of League. We'll get into that. But the coin flip analogy is a simple way to illustrate the absurdity of how common these big streaks are. Just on that alone, something really feels off. And put that together with how matches are so frequently one-sided, it's easy to see why so many people think that something more than just MMR is at work in the matchmaking system of this game. So now we're going to break down Riot's patent on behavioral matchmaking. Of course, matchmaking in League of Legends has so much more going on than just this behavioral stuff, So keep in mind that this is only one dimension of matchmaking, on top of skill, rank, hidden MMR, and of course, the engagement optimization. So let's unpack what they've patented on behavior-based matchmaking. There's also a link for this patent in the description here, so you can go and see it for yourself. Applicant, Riot Games. Title, Systems and Methods that Enable Player Matching for Multiplayer Online Games. Now the abstract of a patent is sort of like a summary. And here we've got, the field of the invention relates to multi-user online gaming systems, and more particularly to systems and methods that enable a spectator's experience for online active games. In a preferred embodiment, an online multi-user game system includes a user matching system configured to match users for a game session, wherein the user matching system is enabled to match a first user with another user, based at least in part on behavior data in the first user's profile. Basically, it says this is a matchmaking system that uses behavior data in some way. And this figure is just a simple illustration of two players getting matched into a game. So now in the description under Specification, Systems and Methods that Enable Player Matching for Multiplayer Online Games, Field of the Invention. The field of the invention relates to multi-user online gaming systems and more particularly to systems and methods that enable matching of players for online active games. Background of the invention. In large multiplayer online games, it is common for players to be matched randomly with other players. For example, in one popular multiplayer online game, League of Legends, from Riot Games, with a base of millions of active users, a first player may opt to be matched with a group of other players unknown to the first player for a particular game. In such a scenario, the first player's experience, positively or negatively, may be dictated by how the other players behave during the game. For instance, other players may play aggressively, which an experienced player may enjoy, but a novice player may not. There are systems that attempt to match players based on skill level and experience, but such characteristics may not be accurate predictors of whether the player in a particular game will have an enjoyable experience. Accordingly, systems and methods to enable an improved player match system would be desirable. So what they're saying here is that games could be more enjoyable if matches were based on other factors aside from skill. And in the example, they talk about aggressive play, which might be fun for an experienced player, but not for a new player. In the summary of the invention, the field of the invention relates to multi-user online gaming systems, and more particularly, to systems and methods that enable a spectator's experience for online active games. We've already heard that. In a preferred embodiment, an online multi-user game system includes an online game session server system communicatively coupled to a public network for access by a plurality of users to establish a plurality of real-time interactive game sessions and a user profile database, including a profile for each of the plurality of users, wherein the profile of the first user includes behavior data defined by a second user. The system further includes a user matching system coupled to the online game session server system and configured to match users for a game session, wherein the user matching system is enabled to match the first user with another user based at least in part on the behavioral data of the first user's profile. Other systems, methods, features, and advantages of the invention will be or will become apparent to one with skill in the art upon examination of the following figures and detailed description. It is intended that all such additional systems, methods, features, and advantages be included within this description, be within the scope of the invention, and be protected by the accompanying claims. So this all pretty much just reiterates what we read in the abstract. It's a matching system that uses behavioral data in some way. Now the next bit here is descriptions of the drawings, so let's have a look at those. There's 13 in total. The first we already saw. Basic depiction of two players getting matched into a game. Figure 1b is a depiction of a chat, where one player says nice move and the other says thank you, and they describe it as an exemplary user interface known in the art. Figure 1c is described as an exemplary diagram of a game session server known in the art. It depicts the separate game engine and chat engine correlating into game files and the client interface. Figure 1d are your standard game modes, and then we've got a repeat image. Now Figure 3 is described as an exemplary diagram of a player matching server, in accordance with a preferred embodiment of the present invention. It's sort of depicting that a player will get matched based on their profile, which would of course be your rank, or matchmaking rating, which is what MMR stands for. So for all of these, they're just describing the convention. But the player profile could include behavioral data, which they'll lead up to. Figure 4 is described as an exemplary user interface, in accordance with a preferred embodiment of the present invention. And it appears to be a report screen. We've got some examples of different behaviors here that you could either report or commend players on things like friendly, team-oriented, helpful, honorable opponent, aggressive, offensive language, unsportsmanlike, AFK, unskilled, or inappropriate name. Now this is interesting, because what was actually implemented is quite similar. You may recognize many of these categories, as they are ones that currently exist in our report system. Except all the good ones were replaced with the honor system, where you can honor players after a game, but you don't choose categories for honors like you do for reporting. Figure 5 is described as an electronic process enabling monitoring of user feedback data for multi-user online games in accordance with preferred embodiment of the present invention. And it's just a diagram depicting behavior data getting stored. Figure 6 shows us a game mode that was never implemented, which would have been called something like social queue. But what really happened is that every game mode is social queue, and it's only separate here for the purpose of illustrating and describing the invention. Figure 7 is described as an electronic process enabling player matching in accordance with a preferred embodiment of the present invention. So this is how they want it to work with behavior-based matchmaking. Start, monitor for match request received, yes, query behavioral data from user's profile, create player matches for a game session based at least in part on queried behavioral data, transmit matches to game server. So what this is depicting is that the system first finds all the players for a match, based on skill. And then after the match has been accepted by everyone, then it sorts those players onto their respective teams based on in part by their behavioral data. So perhaps the lobby is based on MMR or rank. But then after we've got all 10 of the players, the teams then get divided based on their behavior. Like all the toxic feeders go on one side, and all the honorable players go on the other. Now this is quite interesting, because you already know through your own experience that all of the reported players, the inters, the griefers, and the toxic flamers, will usually all end up on the same side. And conversely, all of the more honored players will generally play together on the same team. Why do you suppose we even have an honor system? What would even be the value in that to the players? Do you care about your honor points? I sure don't. Who even cares about this? Well, the system cares. And now you should disproportionately care even more about your honor and reports than maybe even winning individual matches. It's essentially a social credit system, And that should come as no surprise, as League is owned by Tencent, which is of course a Chinese company. And this social credit system is one reason as to how you can end up in these loser queue streaks. You get reported, you didn't get honored, and you were typing in chat. Or maybe you were reporting too many players, and you've really got to watch out for that one. Or maybe you weren't honoring allies, because we all know they don't deserve it. But honor them for yourself. Just every single game, spend every honor point you got. It's like, bless and you will be blessed. And I also may be advised to type something encouraging in chat when a player is grieving or having a hard game, or gets picked on by another player who's mad at them. Something like, hey, I'm going to honor you if you just try your best. Not only might that diffuse a toxic situation, and it probably won't, but that guy will most definitely honor you back. And that's the biggest win that you can actually squeeze out of those miserable losses. Figure 8 shows us that players not only have a single social credit score, but also have different categories that their behavior could be scored on. It says, calculate personality categories for each player, and match players having compatible personality scores. Now what's interesting about this is that not only are players being divided onto teams based on their, quote, personality, but also perhaps matched into lobbies based on it. So the system could be looking for 5 bad boys and 5 good boys to match together before sending that match through. But also, it could be as nuanced as, this lobby has all the feeders, but another lobby has all the toxic verbal abusers. And of course, we have the visible low priority queue as they call it, which of course plays into this somehow as well. But I'm sure that isn't the only application of it. And the next figure is sort of the opposite, where it says, calculate player commendation vectors. Match players based on connections from commendation vectors. Which is to say, match players based on all their good behaviors. That'll be honor points, saying good things in chat, not reporting people, stuff like that. And the very last figure says, create first pool of players based on skill level or experience, and then match players from that pool based at least in part on behavior data. Now what we know as losers queue may actually be more accurately known as reported queue, and Riot filed this patent all the way back in 2013. And this system has even been mentioned in patch notes as behavioral systems. Anytime you see that behavioral systems, this is what it's referring to. And it's also important to note that there is no human oversight or human moderation in this game hardly at all. A case has to quite literally be a support ticket to get any kind of human moderation. Every report, every chat restriction, every AFK, and any other offenses are penalized through pure automation. This is why nobody hardly ever gets rank restricted or penalized for anything except AFK. It doesn't really matter if a guy quite literally runs it down 0-15 every single game, and even losing games on purpose to derank an account. He will never get restricted from ranked, because it's automated, but also because the system sort of needs these toxic and griefing players for it to all work. In section 0012 of the description, there's this part about the chat that says, chat messages exchanged can be recorded and stored in a game's files database. This enables, among other things, replay and history analysis by not only the users, but also the administrator and other systems. Everything you say can and will be used against you. Generating, reporting, and storing behavior data. This section talks about how players can report or commend players for their different types of behavior, and how that data is stored and players are profiled based on their behavior data. And then the next section below that is player matching based on behavior data. As mentioned above, It may be desirable to improve a user experience by matching players with compatible teammates and opponents. Such compatibility may be calculated not only by traditional characteristics, such as skill level and experience, but also by behavior data such as the feedback data described above, which are all the categories of player behavior that we've already talked about so far. Basically all the stuff you can report a player for, or honor points, and things you type in chat, but also aggressive play and ordinary skill. The behavior data in database are filtered into a number of predefined personality categories: leaders, teammates, mentors, and verbal aggressors. A score may be generated for each active user at each category, and each category may have a predefined threshold. For example, a player with a high leader score will have received over 500 positive commendations over the player's lifetime, with at least 25% friendly, 25% helpful, and 25% team. The player matching engine may dynamically match players based on personality scores, such as those described above. For example, the player matching engine may create a 5-player team that includes at least one player with a high leader score, and the remaining 4 players who have high teammate scores in accordance with the formulas above. So if you're real good, you'll be the only one. If this game thinks you're a leader, you'll be the only MVP all the time forever. And that's why this game feels so empty for high-skill players. If you're even just a little bit good at this game, it's real easy to end up feeling like you're the only actual player ever on any of your teams. It's because the game thinks you're a leader, and none of the other players on your team will ever be at that level. This next section talks about how, based on the way that players honor or report each other, they will be matched in subsequent games, and even potentially matched together again on the same team. This is why you just can't escape certain teammates in back-to-back matches. It's all based on this. Because wouldn't it just be such a coincidence, with the millions of players that are online, with the 100,000 players that are probably near the exact same rank as you, why you keep getting the same guy? How is it that you can so frequently pull the same player 2 or 3 games in a row? And players that report each other also sort of cancel each other's reports out, because that's kind of how it works in the social credit system. So if you've just got a feeling, or know that someone is targeting you with a report, then you should also report them as well. It's sort of how China's justice system works. You see, they think silence is guilt, and you can't just report everyone because that hurts you as well. But at the same time, you need to report players who you think are going to report you to balance those out. I would advise only report the extremely toxic verbally abusive players. Don't report griefing or inting. Don't report the 0-15 running it down players, unless they target you in chat. Save it for when it counts, cause you'll have feeders in every game. Don't even report the guys who you know are purposely losing games to D-rank accounts, because sending too many reports hurts your own social credit score. It's not worth it for you to report them. The Chinese communist social credit system is designed in such a way that they want everyone to fall in line. They want everyone to be the same. They don't want anyone to stand out or be different in any way. And they especially don't want people to talk. You see, that's why chatting is so dangerous in League of Legends. They really don't want us to type in chat at all. And that's why off-meta builds and off-role champions are especially dangerous. Making jokes is dangerous. Even just acknowledging a griefer that is on your team is dangerous too, because then they'll flame you or report you, which hurts your behavior score. You don't really want to stand out in any way, and you just really don't want to draw attention to yourself hardly at all, except in the fact that you played well and honorably. So just keep quiet, don't int, and be a good boy. And you'll get better queues as a result of that. In our last video, we mostly talked about player stats, and those are yet another metric in player behavior. Your stats matter just as much as all the honors and reports. If you want to get queued on the winning team, you need to keep your stats up as well. And of course, having good stats correlates to playing well and winning. But correlation does not equal causation. And people that are really cognitively dissonant or just don't understand that, yes, if you play well, you'll have great stats. But what is actually meant in this is to don't grief your stats in a match that you know is already lost. Like you're 4-0 at 10 minutes, but the entire rest of your team is collectively 0 and 20, just accept that loss gracefully. Don't die a whole bunch trying to desperately claw back this game that you already know you can't win. Just finish that bad match 4-0 instead of going like 5-6 or maybe even something like 6-10. Because in those sort of games, it's all too easy to end up with a rather bad-looking score when in fact you're actually the best and most highest contributing player on the team. If you end that miserable and unwinnable game with a score of like 5-6, you'll look like an average mediocre player to the system. The system will then think you're an average player of ordinary skill, when it's actually quite admirable that you did as well as you did in a match that was so clearly lost from the start. So just don't int. Never ever not never. League is a game of patience above all else, and your patience will be rewarded with better queues. Just let that match go and hold on to your pretty score, because that KDA really does mean more than you think it does. But it's also farm and vision score and all that other stuff. KDA is not the only thing. But when you get stuck in a bad game, just AFK farm until it's over. That's why so many players do that. That's why so many, quote, good players do that. You'll notice that just as soon as they recognize a match is lost, they'll just go and AFK farm until it's over. Because they know how it works, and they'll be on the better side next game. It's all you can do, really. So how do you get out of reported queue? Well, Riot customer support can actually do that for you. You could submit a ticket, and if you roll high on charisma, you might get lucky and they might pull you out of it. You probably don't know somebody who works there, but support can change your social score, and they can do you both ways. Someone at Riot could also drop your behavioral score to the floor if they just didn't like you for one reason or another. The system also monitors for keywords in text and voice, so you might also be able to boost your credit by typing good things in chat. But I don't think it understands sarcasm. Like when an ally ints and you type good job or great play. So be careful typing sarcastic jokes, because you might be inting your own street cred with the sarcasm. And be careful what you type or say, because even when you're just having fun, the system doesn't understand when you're just shit-talking your friends. And you could be losing behavior points just for being silly. Is this why Chinese people aren't funny? No, you can't say that. Reported. But League of Legends quite literally has a social credit score on you, which may actually be a few different scores that don't all total into a single value. Like, do you honor your teammates? Do you get honored yourself? How often do you get reported? And how often do you report other players? So if you're reporting all of the griefing and inting players all the time, you may inadvertently be lowering your own social credit, which could be putting you on the toxic side of each queue. Now, if you don't know, League of Legends is developed by Riot Games, but it's owned by Tencent Games, which is of course a Chinese company. And social credit systems are incorporated into just about everything over there. And knowing how China is also big into data collection also brings attention to how invasive Vanguard is. But that could be a whole separate video of its own. There's just so much to unpack on how invasive Vanguard is. But it's also worthy to note that Riot has re-upped and revised this patent in 2017 and again in 2021. Now tell me what you think about reported queue and behavioral-based matchmaking in League. Have you seen it? Have you experienced it? I'll tell you the world of a difference in my own match quality that I noticed after trying to farm social credit. I honestly feel like I'm most of the time on the happy team. Not 100%, not all of the time, but mostly. I feel like the players who main off-meta champions and unpopular roles end up there the most, cause they probably just collect reports every game. That's one easy way to get reported a lot. Go play a champion in roles that most people will disagree with, and it doesn't mean that just because you got an off-meta pick on your team that this game is going to be a loss, but it is sort of a red flag. How often does that actually pan out for you? Like, just think about that. You got some guy that picks something really off. We haven't even seen the rest of the picks yet, but you already know this is not going to be a good game. Most of the time, it either doesn't work, and that role is diffed really hard. Or maybe it does work, but another player or even two players are just flaming that guy all game, even if he doesn't deserve it. I actually enjoy off-meta picks and players that come up with unique strategies, but it's just such a huge red flag in solo queue that after one of those matches that's super toxic with an off-meta pick, I advise you to just call that a day and don't play any more League until tomorrow. Because if you queue again, it's gonna be another round of that. It just probably is. Matchmaking always seems to repeat these very particular sort of lobbies back to back. And report queue, or toxic queue, seems to also fall off within time. So if you're just skirting that line, like your social credit just dipped low enough, just don't play for the rest of the day. Cause if you keep queuing, you'll probably regret it. In the last video, we talked a lot about why it's important to keep your stats high, and this is because it's an easy thing you can control to get yourself placed in that high skill bucket. But just after a couple of bad games, you could fall into the average skill bucket. Or maybe you said some mean things or you got reported. And those are other things that could be making the quality of your matches flip all of a sudden. An interesting exploit of this system is being a high-skilled player with average stats. Because games are being weighed with skill in part, but it's just probably not in a fair way. But how would you even operate as a high-skilled player and still come out with average-looking stats? Well, you just don't flex too hard when you don't have to. Try not to pick up those quadra kills when your allies could easily finish the job. And you don't have to CS so hard every single game. There's all the other metrics too, but those are easy examples. You could probably win a particular game without standing out too much. But in that same game, you could probably get 20 kills and 300 CS. And your reward for playing that hard, or doing that well, might be that you're gonna be the one and only high-skill player on all of your future teams. Because the system is expecting you to carry. Because you're a smurf, right? Oh well, who cares? We got you fully engaged now. That's what some people think is happening to those top lane inting proxy players. They always feed a little, but then they're actually good players who will still probably contribute enough to help their team win the game. And so long as your team isn't totally gapped, you can get away with just about anything. And it's probably better for you to not stand out too much in the system, even as a high-skilled player. So maybe Riot got us on some kind of behavioral-based matchmaking. They at least have a patent for it. But maybe that's just all superstition. So now let's talk about the true skill system that's been added into League. And this one is not up to superstition. Riot updated and implemented what they call True Skill 2 as recently as patch 25.9 in April of 2025. Now, the true skill system attempts to get players to the rank they belong in as quickly as possible. That's the basic idea. But it's also sort of contradictory to their business model of the separated visible rank to the hidden MMR, which is designed to elongate the process of climbing through the ranks.
So ideal matchmaking. The designer ideal is probably to put players in the games that are fun, and maybe have some kind of like planned experience with varying intensity. It's kind of a classic design philosophy that don't just have all super tight matches and all really, or whatever. Have some hard, some easy, and have it go up and down. Then you've got this like business ideal, right? The holy grail would, hey, can I put a long-term monetary value on every possible match I'm going to make per player, and then matchmake into matches that maximize that value over time. Some realistic proxies we use are things like skill gap and churn analysis and stuff like that.
So back when you only had a number, it was much faster to climb to a higher rank. Where with the LP system, it takes something like 20 to 30 wins above your losses just to promote up one full rank. And that's why it takes so long to climb. I mean, if all you did was win, that's still just about an entire work week just to climb through one rank. Now, we do not know exactly how the true skill system works. Riot is not transparent at all in any way of any of their matchmaking algorithms, because the entire matchmaking system is predicated on just trust me bro. But what they've told us is that this system is designed to detect smurfs on new accounts and hard running it down griefers to get them out of the ranks that they're creating unbalanced matches for as quickly as possible. So what does that mean? Or what could that mean? Like if you go and create a new account, even before you've unlocked the ability to play ranked, this game has already identified that you're a smurf, and you'll probably just place in Platinum or Emerald. Or, if you're just straight griefing every single game, then you'll get demoted very quickly. Now that should be a good thing, but how does this system operate on accounts that suddenly switch behaviors? Like an average player who's getting boosted, or a high-skilled player who's tilted and starts griefing games out of spite? Well, we don't exactly know. But what is likely happening is that player's account is put into various buckets based on their behavior, and the true skill system could even be an implementation of Riot's patent on behavioral matchmaking. Players could be labeled on things such as high skill, low skill, average skill, and maybe even toxic, like comms abusive or intentional feeder, maybe highly honored. And then there's all those examples they gave us in the patent. And it would be very easy to just pair up griefers and toxic players together, while also putting the detected smurfs on the other side. And then average skill players just fill in the gaps. We keep them around a 50% win rate anyway, and that'll be what decides on which side of this they go on. But of course, none of these matches are or would be fair or balanced for anyone. And maybe that's not what's happening here, but it sure does appear to be the case, doesn't it? But how could we know? Well, let's go back to what patterns in matchmaking should look like. Matchmaking in League sure is a lot of back and forth between streaks of absolutely no contest wins and loss streaks. Why is it always in these blocks? This is just my match history, and maybe I'm just a scrub. But go look through your own match history, go look at random players, or go look at your favorite streamers and top players. Match histories in this game are just riddled with these 3 in a row or more streaks. It almost appears that the back and forth of 1 win, 1 loss, or even 2 to 1, whichever way, is a lot less common. And some of these streaks are wild. It really is baffling how a player could win like 10 or 15 in a row and then turn right back around on a losing streak, unable to win a single game in the exact same elo that they were blowing out. It just doesn't make any sense. But actually, we could attribute that to just how little agency that a single player has in a game of League of Legends. You see, League of Legends is such a fragile game. It's very easy for a player to run away with the game if they get fed. And sometimes that's you. If you're a high-skill player, that's probably you half the time. But the other half the time, it's the enemy top laner, because your guy is 0-9, and you just can't help it. Just about any champion who goes 9-0 out of lane is going to be practically unstoppable. And then at the same time, all of these new champions are designed to be unstoppable. So when they just get ahead by enough, it's just the end of the game. It's just a wrap. Even if we play past that point, at that stage of the game, when the whole teams are starting to come together, maybe you have some advantages from your other lanes, and maybe you're even a little fed yourself, but you still just can't compensate enough for that huge difference. Maybe you could get really close if only that one guy on your team would stop feeding, because it probably just gets worse as the game goes on. And sometimes it's just one feeder, but sometimes it's two. And sometimes you get triple enters. And what's even the point in playing that match? It really is comical how bad that it frequently is. I thought these matches were supposed to be even. I thought we were being matched by our skill. Isn't that what the whole MMR thing is even about? How can we have the huge discrepancies in skill like all the time, if we're being matched by our skill? When you've got a hard feeder on your team, you're just not winning that game. You as a single player just do not have enough agency. There are a number of games that look really bad, and you can just barely win those, but so many of these are just a complete wash. And conversely, it does go the other way around. Enters be on the other team sometimes too. It just always seems that these matches are incredibly one-sided. Top-level players, smurfing, coaching, challenger-level top pro players will lose games in silver solo queue. And not just the occasional one or two. Sometimes it's a whole streak. Now that really spells out how little agency that a single player has in League. You just don't see that in other games the way that it happens in League of Legends. And maybe that could also just be because League is such a horribly volatile game, just in its design. In the Activision presentation, they spell out for us that developers shouldn't make their games too skill-based. Addictive slot machine gambling type behaviors are way easier to exploit if a game isn't too skill-based. In League, champions get stronger or fall further behind with every little fight and objective over the course of a match. And it really is super easy for a game to snowball and get way out of control, even in high-level play, where everybody is a high-skill player and trying their best. A really fun example of this is the old funnel strategy. Funneling is where you give every possible resource to a single player. All the gold and all the XP. Like let the jungler also take the minions from lanes. And then when they get enough ahead of everyone, they just 1v5 the entire enemy team. And this worked in pro play. The strategy worked so well that several changes were made to prevent junglers from funneling anymore. Like for example, now if a jungler gets ahead by enough, they just don't get any more gold from lane minions. And so maybe the one-sidedness that we experience in all of our matches is just in the way that the game is. But also it seems like every patch, Riot tries their best to minimize skill expression. It's like they're constantly implementing features or mechanics that reduce individual player agency even more and more. Like now we got Phalites and Roll Quest. Those are the new things they've just added in 2026. Now with the Phalites, ward placement has kind of been decided for you. Why even bother with wards and the whole Fog of War system if you're just going to design the map like this? And it's so funny how the vision cones are right on top of the Phalites. What is even the purpose of any of this? And then the new role quest thing sort of locks players into their lanes. So let's say your teammate got a bad matchup in their lane. You can't even trade with them to minimize that gap anymore. Or at least not without getting punished for it. It's just anything they can change to minimize those pesky high-skill players winning all the time. But I will tell you, back in those early seasons of League, playing on the ranked solo queue ladder, just about every single match was super tight and super grindy. It was like every match came down to the slightest little advantage. And a lot of games ended at a coin flip over Baron. Back then, League of Legends in a nutshell used to be waste 20 minutes farming and then teamfight at Baron. That was about it. And that's not necessarily good either. And the champions that were valued in solo queue were the late game, high sustain, tanky DPS, hard to kill but will still kill you easy sort of champions. And then of course the handful of champions that were just overloaded for their time. Junglers like Amumu, Rammus, and Malphite were just about banned every game, because they just offered too much tanky crowd control. And being able to just jump onto someone and hold them down was really OP for the time. But now, just about every champion has their own version of that. The champions that were OP back then are very mundane by today's standards. Like Amumu is still good, but it's not really OP, except maybe in low elo. The champions that we value in solo queue now are the ones that pop off when they get fed. Champions like Darius and Briar or Viego. Champions that just run away with the whole game when they get ahead. Like Briar is so egregious in games where you've got a low skill player on the other team, because every time her ult is up, you can just keep catching that same guy over and over again. And there's just nothing that anyone else can do about it. Doesn't matter who it is, or what position they're in. If Briar smells a feeder, it's about to get crazy. So if you want to climb, if you honestly want to try your best to climb in solo queue, you should be playing one of these sorts of champions. A long time ago, they did an April Fool's joke for the reveal of Lee Sin, and the joke was that he's just everything and overpowered.
Lee Sin is a ranged melee, tanky DPS, assassin, mage, tank, support, jungler. He excels at everything. Lee Sin's hidden passive is blindness. Your entire screen is blurry while playing him at all times, but he is immune to spells such as Teemo's Blinding Dart and Nocturne's Paranoia. I start the game at level 18, because I'm Lee Sin, the Blind Monk. Immediately, I use Sonic Wave and target the enemy summoner platform. I follow up with Resonating Strike, flying across the map and into the enemy base. On arrival, I walk up to the summoner platform and kill them all with Tempest.
But this is what the new champions are now. And abilities like Briar's ult literally go all the way across the entire map. And then she does too. It's so funny how this parody has become reality. Champions really are everything all at once now. Mage, tank, assassin, DPS, all at once. And we'll give them a teleport and a stun on top of that just for good measure. What a joke. What a joke the design of this game is. But games are also very one-sided now, just because of how overloaded the champions are. Because it makes League of Legends even more snowbally.
15 minutes into the game, Baron Nashor spawns. Simply by walking towards it, the Baron kills himself for me, because I'm Lee Sin, the Blind Monk. Immediately afterwards, I get ganked by not only the enemy champions, but one of my own teammates has actually defected, making it a 1v6. I'm going to slow down the video just to show you exactly how I handle this scenario. First, I juke into the brush, and by sheer force of will prevent myself from being stunned. Afterwards, I walk forward and stand in the middle of my enemies. Using my second ability, Safeguard, I turn nearly invulnerable and regenerate my health and energy while I get up and make some tea. Realizing that resistance is useless, my opponents sit still and wait. Eventually I, Lee Sin the Blind Monk, get tired of waiting and use my third ability, Tempest, which is extremely awesome and kills them all instantly. At this point, all the players on each team attempt to surrender. However, I'm Lee Sin, the Blind Monk, meaning that games don't end and players can't leave until I say so. However, I do eventually decide to win the game, so I walk up to an enemy champion and use Dragon's Rage to kick it into the enemy Nexus, immediately destroying it and winning the game. First, I juke into the brush, and by sheer force of will prevent myself from being stunned. Afterwards, I walk forward and stand in the middle of my enemies. Using my second ability, Safeguard, I turn nearly invulnerable and regenerate my health and energy while I get up and make some tea. Realizing that resistance is useless, my opponents sit still and wait. Eventually I, Lee Sin the Blind Monk, get tired of waiting and use my third ability, Tempest, which is extremely awesome and kills them all instantly.
Now all of this power creep and design creep removes individual player agency in their ability to control the outcome of matches. And popular online games lean into this fire design, as they call it, to make these games dynamic, which is a nice way to say that it's a chaotic mess, where most of all the fundamental mechanics are undermined or invalidated by the design of effects and abilities. Like the fog of war and vision control is supposed to be a fundamental mechanic in League, but so many characters can just be completely invisible, and it just undermines that entire mechanic. And position might as well be a long and forgotten thing in League of Legends. What even is position in this game anymore? Because every character has so much mobility and dash type abilities that no one can hardly ever be punished for being out of position anymore, like basically ever. And then we also had to put these blast cones all around the map just for good measure. Position is meaningless now, and this is supposed to be a strategy game. All the champions now are designed to be their own flavor of unstoppable. And naturally, with that sort of design, every match becomes a chaotic mess. And individual player agency is so minimized by how the different over-designed champions play into each other. Even a low-skill player can pop off when the champions are so overloaded. It's kind of like how in popular over-designed card games, the player who goes first just pretty much wins, because the individual cards just do too much. The game is extremely nuanced. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, and the combos are super complex, and you might feel super big-brained going through all of those motions. But really, the only thing that actually matters is who goes first and what's in your opening hand. This is what developers aim for in the design of their online games now, because they don't want these games to be too skill-based, because they want anyone to be able to win. And it makes the game sort of like a slot machine or a dice game. It's the randomness of that mixed bag of wins and losses, which is what makes these games truly addictive. The emotional roller coaster of extreme highs and extreme lows. And for League, it's who you got on your team, who got banned, and who got counterpicked. And the next 30 minutes is just playing out a game of who's the biggest loser. Because that's what decides just about every single match in League. It's not who the best player is, it's who the worst player is. Matches pretty much always come down to who has the weakest player between the two teams. You just do not have enough agency to really control the outcome of matches as a single player in solo queue. And the ongoing design of League leans further into that with every update and with every new champion design. Playing the ranked ladder in League is just basically gambling with a small component of skill to it. It's just gambling LP. And when you lose a game in one of those complete waste of time, no contest unplayable matches, you didn't just simply waste the 30 minutes you spent on that one match, because that loss also undoes the value of your last or next win. So each completely unplayable match is really wasting an entire 2 matches worth of your time. Get 2 or 3 of those in a row because the matchmaking in this game is horrendous, and now you've effectively wasted the time it takes to play 6 matches through no fault of your own. There is just no integrity in this game. Not in its fundamental design, in its character designs, not in the matchmaking, or even the report system. And on top of all of that, League of Legends is also like a fake esport. It's all just for show, really. It's not like you, as an average consumer, can go and compete or participate in anything. And the solo queue ladder has virtually no reward to it at all. Once upon a time, there was like a backpack and a jacket you could get for reaching Challenger. I mean, what an actual joke. All of the official tournaments are invitation only, and those sketchy private online amateur tournaments are all you got as a consumer in League of Legends. It's not like you can just show up to an open event like with a real esport. It's all just for show. It's just marketing. It's just to get people gambling LP on the ranked ladder.
It's nice if your skill system has a link to the pro players. If I can look at the skill system and see at least the pro or kind of top amateur players near the top are the same as the pros that are playing in the real tournaments and things like that, live ones, then I'm going to know as a player what I need to do to get up there. I'll have a good feeling for that. Sure, it's kind of fictional. Most people are not, of course, not going to get there, but at least I can, kids can tell their mom, hey, I can win $1 million if I buy this game and play it enough.
And people with low human development are drawn to these sort of games because they're designed to take advantage of compulsive people with low self-control and addictive tendencies. That's also one huge factor as to why League's player base is so incredibly toxic. The majority of League's player base are low self-control people. That's why someone runs it down every game. They don't have enough self-control to not int, essentially. That's why someone gets tilted in every match. They just don't have enough control over themselves, and their egos are so fragile. 90% of League's player base is immature teens and low development adults. And good luck trying to compensate one of them running it down, because you really can't. You just hope that the other team got one worse. Because you as an individual player just do not have enough agency in this game. And the overloaded design of these games also minimizes that even further. Now back in Season 3, when they introduced the whole visible rank and hidden MMR system, they also introduced some key values that could be nothing of note now, but it is interesting how these values are still in the code of the game. But if you know anything about programming, sometimes it's way easier to just program over top of what you've already got, and just bury or leave in the part that you don't need anymore. Because removing or cutting out code might cause you other problems that aren't apparent until it's too late. So it's actually very common in any kind of programming to leave stuff in the code that you don't need anymore. But as you can see, players could get labels like Veteran, Fresh Blood, Hot Streak, or Inactive. And these labels are still in the code of the game. One conspiracy about this is that players might have been getting easier or harder queues based on what sort of label they had. Like if you're on a hot streak, you're gonna keep getting easy matches. Or if you're a new player, you're gonna get easy matches to get started. So we can get a player fully engaged as quickly as possible and hopefully addicted. And if you're a veteran, you're hard stuck essentially. It's like a euphemism to say you're an average skilled player. And an inactive account might be a churned player. That's the conspiracy. But what is interesting is how this hot streak idea sort of correlates to the autofill system. You see, players are not always eligible for autofill. It's not entirely random chance. One example is, after a remake or someone AFKs one of your games, or if you have a loss mitigated game for any reason, you'll get a message saying something like, you'll have your preferred role guaranteed for the next 2 games. And then other times, it just kind of seems to be arbitrary. There is some kind of system at work there that picks and chooses who is and isn't possibly going to be autofilled for various reasons. But we as the players queuing up don't know what all of those reasons are. And it's suspected that hot streak is one of the reasons as to why you can't be autofilled. And that makes sense. It's not fair, but it sounds like a smart move if you're trying to maximize retention. Hey, you're on a hot streak, so you'll probably keep playing until you lose. And if you get autofilled, that'll probably be the end of that streak. And if League is operating on any kind of behavioral-based matchmaking, these labels could just be more buckets that players could be placed in. Now we're going to talk about the user engagement cycle. We already talked about player states, and every user has a pattern of engagement that will look something like this graph. This presentation comes from Activision's AWS presentation in 2019, which talks about machine learning to predict player states and how to keep players fully engaged, to which they also have patents for. And of course, this is Activision and not Riot. But keep in mind that the same experts in this field are pretty much designing the matchmaking for all of the popular games. And these systems are designed to maximize player retention, and they're the precedent now. This is the norm, actually. If you're going to spend millions of dollars to build an online game with any kind of matchmaking, of course you implement every bit of this that you can squeeze into it, because it means more money. You'd be a fool not to. And it's incredibly naive to think that a massive game like League of Legends doesn't even have a lick of behavioral-based or retention-based algorithms in its matchmaking. But this graph is pretty much just a depiction of what the user engagement cycle looks like.
So for people that worked with live products, this curve is really familiar. So you have an early engagement building up, and there's a peak, and eventually there's a tail. Now, different people are going to have different shapes. Some people are going to have like a higher peak, lower peak, shorter tail, longer tail, but that's what the average curve looks like. Every part in this curve is what we were doing at that specific time. So every point in this red line is your state in your journey. So here, in the beginning, you are learning about a specific game feature, you're learning that you like this game mode, you learn that you like this other game mode even better, this is your preferred weapon, and it goes up, 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 and then you start playing less and less and less and less. Now, different people have different shapes, but those shapes might overlap. And when those shapes overlap, we have people sharing states for a moment in time. So I can look at somebody that was in your state that you are right now, but this person was 6 months ago, and see what happened to this person. Did this person increase engagement, decrease engagement? What message this person was sent? And was it good, was it bad? Now I get all this information and I can make a decision about what to do with you right now.
Now the goal of every online game, whether it's League of Legends or Call of Duty or whatever, the goal is to get players in a maximum engagement state as quickly as possible, and then keep them playing for as long as possible after that. Some players might slowly play less and less before they churn, and others might just suddenly quit cold turkey, but this is what they call the user engagement cycle. Players are also more likely to churn in certain states than others, and all these games are designed to do everything that they possibly can to keep players away from those states. Here's a chart with square space cells, and in this example, a player's state could move up, down, left or right, one state at a time. And let's say we really want to avoid this red state. It could be as simple as just giving a player a single easy match, or maybe a free loot box, or like some kind of milestone, like mastery levels. Players will react differently to all of these things. but that's the basic idea in a simple illustration.
This is a textbook example of how classic reinforcement learning works. So I'm going to go really fast so you guys have like some background how everything was done. So in this grid, and generally you have like a reward state, which is the 1.0 on the top. And sometimes you have like a negative reward state, which for you could be the churn state. You want to avoid the state. And in reinforcement learning, what we're doing is we're trying to find the value of those other cells. Those other cells are specific states that exist in this world. And in this specific world, we have 4 actions. You can go up, down, right, and left. And we're trying to learn what is the value of taking this action in the specific state. What is going to give you that? So when you solve the world using reinforcement learning, you get something like this. You see that going up in different states have different returns, but if I drop you anywhere in this grid, you know where to go to find a reward. States for us is user attributes. So anything about engagement, revenue, preferred items, inventory, everything comes down to build your state. Every circle you see in the screen, it's a state. So the X's are churn states, the blues and the greens are states that I'm going to talk about it, but the arrows here are different because remember the arrows are the actions. It's how I walk from one state to the other. And messages are pretty much what we send to the user. So if I want to move a user from state 1 to state 2, I send him a message. Hey, do this in the game. Hey, try that. Hey, did you hear about this new game event? And by doing that, I change your state. I send it to another state. And some states are better than others. Now, what our model does is it's going to look ahead in the future and see, is there a better place that I can introduce this feature that is going to lead to a higher engagement? So in this, you can see there's a path. I need to reroute user to state 2 and state 3, and there, if I send him the same message, it's going to lead to higher engagement. Now, there's a risk. In state 2, the user can churn. You could churn from any state, actually. Now, how confident am I, the model, that I'm going to be able to avoid this state, and I'm going to make people go to state 3 in order to experience this feature? As long as I have a higher confidence, I'm going to do this rerouting. If I have a lower confidence, it's going to do something different.
Now, how do you get players in a maximum engagement state as quickly as possible? What would be some of the things you could do to achieve that? One thing you could do is give a new or returning player a series of easy matches when they first start. That's an easy way to get a player fully engaged rather quickly. This next chart shows us a simple idea of how to anticipate player states, and how providing the player with messages, for example, could get them to go to the next state you want them in for the optimal player path. Some games even have a churn score that they keep on player profiles. Now there's a seemingly infinite number of states that a player can be in, and a player could churn at any state. And this is where machine learning comes into play, because with machine learning, we can track players individually and provide them with tailor-made solutions to keep them engaged and prevent them from churning. So for one player, that might be give them an easy match, but for another, that might be to give them a couple of hard matches. And maybe we throw them a loot box. Or how about, hey, for the next 2 games, you can't be autofilled. This graph represents players that have similar states. And this is where the system learns that players who experience a particular set of circumstances are more or less likely to churn or become more engaged. And with this information, we could prevent players from churning by rerouting them to better states.
The lighter the color is, the more engaged the user is with Call of Duty. The size of the circles there is how many people are in that specific state. So you can see already some patterns that some states are connected to some other states. And this is really powerful now because I can give a heads up before somebody goes to like a critical churn state 1 week before. You can run simulations to see where people are going to be 1 week from now, 1 month from now, because we are learning here like how the world is connected and how user experience your game in the long term. So in the very center, you see a larger circle, and this is the root state. When you start playing Call of Duty, that's where you start. Now, because it's really dark, now it's dark because you start a game, we don't know anything about you. So everything about you is 0. So that's why it's a dark color there. But you see all those possible directions to go. There's all those possible futures for you to explore, and all those possible paths and where they send you to. Here you can see that it's clear that there's like a cluster with light circles on the bottom. You want to reroute users there. So that's the strategy that the graph is going to do.
In a popular game with large sample sizes, they can create models for player states very quickly. And for games that have been running with these systems for a long time, they know what works. He references AlphaGo here, which is an AI designed to play the board game Go. And he says that AlphaGo has way more states to deal with than players in an online game. So it's not even a concern that players could have too many states for machine learning to path out and act on.
We have so many states. We actually have hundreds of thousands of states to explore. And we were learning in that previous example the value of taking an action in a specific state. And the more we sample, the closer we get to the real world. And we have enough traffic in Call of Duty. So it can actually approximate a very good model in a couple of hours. And this is designed for a big search space. You guys are probably thinking, oh, you guys have like so many different paths, so many different states. Monte Carlo tree search really can deal with that. If you guys are familiar with AlphaGo, their search space was much bigger than our search space. So I'm not at all worried about the number of states that we have.
And the final part of this idea is, of course, how players navigate those states, and how the system could very easily be predicting in real time possible future states, while also tailoring that player's experience to keep them in optimal paths. And this is where we actually are in patented and implemented matchmaking systems. But is any of that in League? Would it surprise you? Do you think Riot is going to give us a presentation like this on how the whole thing is rigged? But I bet they got each account pegged as to exactly what kind of player they are. We used to have this stats tab that's now since been removed from the game. And even if maybe they don't do a single thing with it, they have all of that data in the game in the system. And even more than just what you used to be able to see. There's these third-party sites where you can still get that data, so it's still being aggregated. They even track stats that you wouldn't imagine, like how players control their camera, actions per minute, how many times do you click to walk, just anything and everything. Here's some examples of how machine learning could tailor a player's experience and how you might be manipulated into playing more games. Are you a player who will chase losses all the way up until you finally get a win, and then you'll quit after that win? Or are you the type who will keep on playing after you finally get that one win and play until you run it all back? Or are you the player who will only play until you get 2 losses in a row? And if the system knows that you're a player who chases losses, they got you bad. Also known as rage queuing is when a player loses a match and just keeps queuing until they hopefully win it all back. It's sort of like the gambler's fallacy, where you just keep betting double and eventually you'll win it all back, right? Or you run out of money. And you can't double or nothing on League points, but you can end up in a horrible spiral chasing losses. Because when you queue up for a ranked game, you're essentially just gambling LP, and people will play more games trying to get their lost rank back, or trying to recover that sweet progress they just had. Maximum engagement achieved. The system knows which kind of player you are, and your experience could very easily be manipulated to get you to play more. Now I think that League in particular has churn periods based on both 24-hour and 1-week cycles. If you don't play for a full week, then you're considered inactive. You've quit, you're gone, that's a full churn. If you don't play for the rest of the day, then that is the end of a single play session. Maybe a play session is after 6 hours of inactivity, or maybe it's when the server rolls over to the next day. But you'll notice that experience in League seem to change with the day. One day might be quite obviously a lose streak, and another might be an easy winning streak. If you recognize that you're on a good day, you should just play as much as you can, or until you lose and quit after that single or double loss. And if you lose 2 in a row right off the rip, I would just not play anymore for the rest of that day. Not even unranked or any other game mode, because those other game modes are keeping you engaged. And if the system knows that, if you take a double L in solo queue, then you'll just go play other modes for another 2 hours. Then it'll deal you that pattern again, hoping to get the same sort of behavior out of you. Now if you lose 2 in a row, and it's because you know you dropped the ball, because you lost that game on your own poor performance, your next game is probably an easy win, assuming that you don't grief it. Now Activision said they were predicting player states and churn at a week and even a whole month in advance. I mean, they got you pegged, and all you can really do is try your best to aim for whichever bucket that you want the system to have you in. Are you an average player? Are you a high skill player? Or are you a low skill player? Are you honorable or are you a griefer? They even predict what kind of player states are likely to get you in the shop, and that's why they have all these random rewards and limited time personal type deals. Now let's get into the deepest part of this rabbit hole. The absolute bottom layer of the conspiracy theory iceberg. It all starts with this patent from Activision. Systems and methods for dynamically modifying video game content based on non-video gaming content being concurrently experienced by a user. Now that's a mouthful, but the gist of it is real-time content modification. This system modifies game content in real time based on external events, such as adjusting a player's character power or providing in-game effects when a specific real-world match reaches a certain point. Now I'm going to show some examples of this in implementation, which all come from Call of Duty, which is of course a game developed by Activision.
The splatter will occur, but the hit won't register.
You could see the blood splatter both times, and I shot him, and no hit marker or damage was being done. Boom. Shot number 1. Shot number 2. You see the blood splatter, which means he hit the shot. There is a hit marker difference. When you hit somebody in the head and you hit somebody in the body, there is a hit marker difference. It's a little bit subtle, but I'll show it to you right here. I don't think one time does he shoot to the head. Toes, 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 body, body, body. And when you see a hit marker like this, you see this hit marker with like the double lined hit marker? That is a headshot hit marker. Nothing but toe shots. Bro, not even hitting him here. Literally not hitting him here. These are headshot hit markers, Chad. These are headshot hit markers. Headshot, headshot, headshot. So headshot, headshot. Obviously on... Look, that's not a headshot hit marker right there. That is a regular, normal hit marker. Headshot, headshot, headshot.
There's no hit marker despite there being a blood splatter. But sniper hit reg has been a weird thing since COD 4. This one, again, we are seeing blood splatter and absolutely no hit markers. It takes this guy 20 shots, pretty much, to the head, and he's getting hit markers, blood splatter, the works. To kill this guy, this stuff just doesn't make sense. He doesn't start getting hit markers until the dude is like around the corner and he's shooting him through the wall. It appears, by the way, that the enemy also isn't really getting hit markers on the person shooting.
Now it's difficult to work out this sort of stuff in League, because landing skill shots and how much damage they should do isn't as clear as just pointing a reticle on someone. Like it's not as clear as headshots getting counted on the toes. And I just think that's a hilariously egregious example. But I've noticed a lot of strange instances when players randomly get executed when they still got like 50 to 100 HP. or when players miraculously live at like 10 or less HP when they obviously should have died. But in League, there's just so many layers of effects and abilities, on top of minion aggro, and turret aggro, or neutral monster damage, and ignite, and other burn effects, and item passives, or potion healing, and second wind, and base health regeneration, and there's just so much more, and it could all be going on at once. So there's just so many layers to damage and healing that can all be happening simultaneously that it would be very easy to obfuscate some foul play. There's also so many layers to it that you just can't know. We see it all the time how players just barely survive. It really ought to be a rare oddity though, for a player to survive at like 10 or even 20 HP, and it seems to happen a lot more than it should. Cause even at level 1, players will have like 70 AD, or spells are doing somewhere around 70 to 90 damage, and then take 20 to 30% off of that for resistance, and damage is being dealt in increments of like 50 to 70. It just really is miraculous when a player survives at such low HP, but it just seems like we see it all too often. And you'll also notice that it often happens multiple times by the same player in the same match. And that's even crazier, and that's what makes it so suspicious. Said player might just be modified like this in an attempt to give them a good game, deliver them a particular kind of experience, as if the system wants them to pop off and have an exciting match. Let me know what you think about possibly manipulated damage values and hit registration, because when it comes to hit registration, I've seen that myself plenty of times. When hits do not match their markers, either it doesn't go far enough, or surprise, that attack is actually much bigger than its indicator, like the ability is hitting beyond or outside of its marker. Like how some characters, like Scion or Set, have a marker that the enemy team can see, which shows you where an attack is coming before they let it go. And I've seen attacks like that hit very clearly outside of their indicators. And this is also very dubious, because League is just a janky game. Stuff like that can also be attributed to just how buggy and broken this game can be. So I don't know. But it is very interesting, and actually, I'd say that's more than interesting, especially in regards to Activision, and how Mr. Mank was building player retention systems for them before coming to work at Riot and develop for League. But let me know what you think about real-time player modification. It wouldn't surprise me, I'll tell you that. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be completely intellectually honest. Would it come as a surprise to you if any of these systems were verifiably discovered in League? No, probably not. Some people would be like, I knew it all along, right? But I think most of us would say something like, I had no idea, but it doesn't surprise me. What's also compelling, and why so many people fall into this type of attitude towards matchmaking, is that there's so little transparency in how it actually works. So much is left up to the imagination, and there's so much room for obfuscation, right? Like we've got visible ranks, but your actual rank, your real matchmaking rating, is just a number, but you can't see that number, and you've got no idea what it is. And supposedly, we match you with other players based on that number. Because remember, that's how it used to be. And your LP gains are also based on this number. That's what we've got to go on. And supposedly, officially, Riot has implemented other systems in their matchmaking, like that true skill thing, to separate griefers and smurfs in some way. But they can't even tell us how that works either, because it's beyond the curtain too. There actually is a lot more going on in matchmaking, aside from just pairing up 10 players with a similar MMR. And that's not up to superstition, that's not conspiracy, it's just that we as the players don't know what all of those other systems are. Riot's matchmaking is the Colonel's secret recipe, and you better believe that there's more than one spice in that chicken. But what engagement-optimized matchmaking looks like is extreme highs and lows. You'll just be on top of the world, clapping games with no contest. Win, 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 like you're unstoppable and popping off every single game with the easiest opponents you can imagine. And then immediately following that, it's like 3 games in a row that you couldn't win to save your life. The chaotic and dynamic slot machine type nature of this game also plays very well into that. It's complementary to the engagement maxing system, because all of the different champions match up together or against each other in dynamic ways. There's lots of garbage matchups. Then we've also got team comps. Some champions are really strong when they're together on the same team. And remember, Riot's own patented behavioral-based matchmaking system puts players into labels or buckets and matches them based off of that. Players could be put into buckets based on which champions they play. Like we know that this guy always picks this champ and bans that other one. Or this guy always plays someone different. Or this other guy is counter-picking just about every match. And we could use that data to match players to create for them whatever experience we think is ideal to keep them on the optimal path of engagement. And it's not as far-fetched as you might think. But of course, the curtain will never be lifted. Not for as long as they keep up the charade. Why would Riot ever come out and tell everyone how they're rigging the game? But I do respect and think it's hilarious how Activision pretty much gave us the whole spill. Some players would actually continue to play, regardless of that knowledge, because they're just super addicted, and they really are just down bad to get their gambling fixes from online video games. But if all this engagement-based matchmaking was transparent and everyone knew that the game was rigged, there would be no prestige in it. Nobody would feel any value or accomplishment in their rank, and there would be no chase for it. A lot of people say League of Legends is not a fun game, and it's not. It's just not. Go play this game with bots, and tell me if that game is fun. Or if you're a high-skill competitive player, go and play nothing but normals. If League of Legends didn't have a ranked ladder, most of us wouldn't even bother with it. It's the system that's holding your attention. It's the illusion of this being an esport, which is the part you want to engage with. And knowing that it's probably rigged, do you still want to play? The emotional roller coaster is the most optimal for maximum engagement and player retention. And that's why it's pretty much always those back-to-back streaks. If this game was based on skill, you wouldn't see those incredible streaks so frequently. A lot of people get stuck in this game because of the sunk cost fallacy. You think, I've spent so much time learning how to play this game, and I'm so good at it now. I've mastered all these concepts, and I already played so many matches, that I might as well keep playing. And if you just play enough games, then you can get to whatever benchmark. And that's the whole catch. Even if you're just an average skill player, you can climb in this game. But only if you play enough matches. And games of League are 20 to 30 minutes long on average. Maybe some surrender at 15, and some can go on for 45 minutes plus. But even just with 20 to 30 minutes, you still have to consider the time it takes to load up the client, wait for a match, often sit through multiple champion selects, and then sometimes the game loads for a whole minute, or sometimes it's longer than that, just for someone to AFK, cause a remake, and you have to sit through the whole process again. And then you're also probably spending some other time on League which is not actually in a match, like processing what just happened in your last match, maybe watching a replay, looking at your builds, reading a guide, or developing a new strategy. The amount of time that you're wasting in this game for essentially dice rolls is staggering. That's what most matches come down to. It's the dice roll. Who you got on your team? What champion do they play? Did somebody get their champion banned? Did anyone get counterpicked? And which team got the worst feeder? And what's even worse is that the dice roll is probably not truly random either. So you're just along for the ride. Unless you're a streamer, unless you're unemployed, the time cost to play enough games to get to whatever rank or reach whatever benchmark is just not even practical. How many games can you actually play in a season? Like, if you got a job, if you've got any kind of responsibility, how many games can you actually play in a season? If you're not in a position to play this game like it's a full-time job, it's not enough. That's the answer. Whatever rank you want, or whatever rank you could probably actually get to, you just can't play enough games to actually achieve it. And that's also sort of by design. So if you're not in a position to play like 1,000 matches in a season, don't even bother with ranked. Like, honestly. Now, if for whatever reason you still want to continue your ranked journey, I'll give you all of the best superstitious home remedies for how to deal with the rigged matchmaking in League of Legends. Maybe these are some hot fire tips that you can use to exploit the system, or maybe it's all pure superstition. But lots of people swear by some of these, and you'll just have to tell me what you think, and if any of these things work for you. Now these are in no particular order. It would appear that the faster you get matched for a game in queue, the worse that match is going to be for you. And the higher rank you are, usually the higher the weights are too, because there's fewer people to match with. Now that makes sense. But when you get an instant queue, that's probably bad news. They say it's a red flag, and I think I agree. And maybe that's not due to some engagement optimized matchmaking. Instant queues are also probably a result of someone who just dodged a game, and maybe you're filling in that spot. You probably don't want to play that match with those teams, likely for the same reasons that the last guy just left, so I would keep that in mind. Instant queues are probably loser queues, and conversely, when a match feels like it's taking a lot longer to find, you're probably in the winner's queue. Maybe it takes a little bit longer to find 5 non-toxic players to put together, and it's real easy to fill in the gaps for the losing team. They say that when your MMR starts to get ahead of your visible rank, that you get hit with one or a number of skill check matches, where you'll be tested in more difficult games with higher ranked opponents. And the outcome of these skill check matches could determine the start of a winning or losing streak. And it could also be like a Smurf check as well. So like if you win 10 games in a row and then fail the skill check, that could be the trigger for you to now experience a 10-game loss streak, with those absolutely unplayable matches that are just completely out of your control. Some things that you can do when you recognize that you're in the reported queue, the toxic queue, the loser's queue, whatever it is, instead of sitting through that streak, just uninstall the client and don't play for an entire week. I mean 7 full days. And really, don't even play until the 8th day. So if you quit on a Monday, don't play your first match again until that next Tuesday after. Because in doing that, you'll get labeled as a churned player. And when you return, you'll get the new player optimal path for maximized engagement, which means you'll get a series of easy matches on that first day or two, or until the game thinks that you're fully engaged. And uninstall the client when you do this, just for good measure. Some people say that some of this information tracking is stored client-side, and maybe it is. Sitting out for a week also clears up your bad social credit, enough to get you out of the toxic side of each game. So maybe you were in loser's queue because you got reported too much, or maybe it's because you win too many times in a row, and the system is rubber banding you back down. But for whatever the reason, sitting out for a whole week just seems to clear all of that up, at least temporarily. But also, Quitting when you're having bad streaks also teaches the system what your churn states are. Because remember, each individual player has their experience tailored explicitly for them. Some people say that normal games are also integrated into the same algorithm for behavior and engagement as the ranked queue, so you could potentially put your losses on normal games. Just go throw a couple of normal games here and there. But remember, you don't want to get reported, and you want to farm honor at the same time. So be a good sport about it. Maybe first time a couple of new champions, and try your best, but just set yourself up to fail in a couple of normals. And then when you're back on the easy street, hit the ranked queue. It's kind of like this old trick for slot machines. You see, slot machines are legally required to pay out a certain percentage of what they take in. Each state in America is different, and each individual game is programmed different. Maybe it's 7%, but it could be as high as a 15% payout, and you don't know when it's going to pay out either, but you know that it has to eventually. And that payout isn't probably a jackpot, but it's more likely to be lots of little wins over hundreds of spins. So what you do is change the amount of your bet based on how due the machine is to pay out. Most of those games have a wager amount that you can change to win more or less when you win based on how much you bet. And you just bet the lowest amount, and after you completely miss like 5 spins in a row, then you wager the maximum amount when the machine is more likely to hit a small reward. And supposedly, you can do something like that between normals and ranked games. At least you can farm honor and social credit in normals for sure, which is an easy way to get yourself out of the toxic or reported queue if you don't feel like sitting out for a whole week. What's also very telling as to why the normal and ranked lobbies are probably using the same MMR, and probably the same entire algorithm, is because a new account has its MMR based on its performance before ranked play is even unlocked. A brand new account can start as high as Emerald, or at least they could in 2025. I know we've just had a lot of big changes in the last season, but this is why 2 different players can both win all 5 of their placement games, and one might start in Gold and another in Platinum or even Emerald. And that's because MMR and player labels are being calculated by the many normal games that you played before playing those placement matches. If you're on the fence about quitting, or maybe you want to quit, but you're just addicted, try leaving a game. See what that feels like. Like, try leaving in the middle of a match. You've had 3 absolutely unplayable matches in a row, and this is the 4th one, and you've had enough. Just leave. You don't have to sit through this. And you'll never get banned for it either. The first time is a 1-minute timer, and the second and third are just multiple 5-minute timers. Unless you're doing it a whole lot, you're not gonna get banned. But you know this game is garbage, and you know you're being manipulated, and you know it's the loser's queue, and you know this game is a waste of time. And you can't surrender because it's too early, but they probably still vote no anyway. Just leave. Go have a breath of fresh air. Get a drink. And when you come back, right-click down here to exit Vanguard. And then think about how truly awful and miserable this game is, and how you could have literally done anything else today. Do you really want to queue again when this match is over? Because probably, for the entire rest of today, that will be the experience you get in every match. After you do that, it's real easy to quit playing League. And maybe it takes you 2 or 3 times if you're really addicted. But just leaving a match when it's real bad like that will help you quit real easy. Players feel like they're trapped in these games. You think, oh no, I have to stay. I'll get in trouble. I could get banned. Who cares? Why do you care? If you got banned from League, if your account got deleted right now, it would probably be the best thing in your life that's ever happened to you. That would be Riot doing you a favor. And at the end of the day, we as the consumer don't know what the League of Legends matchmaking system entirely entails. But every one of these little things is just a reach. It's just a single point on a graph. But enough points makes a line. And enough reaches in the same direction ought to tell you something. I think it's incredibly naive to not at least consider that it's likely the case that matchmaking is in some way manipulative to maximize engagement. Why wouldn't they? You think Riot has integrity? Do you understand the value in what even just a 3% player engagement increase looks like to a mega billions operation like this? Of course you would employ every little thing you can to maximize engagement and retention. Why would you patent all of these systems to just not use them? Think we'll pass on another $45 million this year. You really think that with all the data and research that's been done on this, that they're just gonna straight pass on any potential increase like that? The correct answer is maybe. I don't know. Probably.